Thanks, Andy, and thanks everybody on the Chainlink team. We're really excited to be able to present to you guys today. I'm going to talk just for 10 minutes, a quick keynote about a study that we're about to publish in a few weeks that we've been doing in partnership with Chainlink about the digital euro. But first, to give you some idea of who the heck is talking and a little bit of context, I introduced the Internet Economy Foundation, which is the foundation that I've been running for 5 years. And it is interesting, Andy, as you mentioned, we're sort of moving a little towards regulation. The panel just a moment ago, Sheila Warren, really appreciated her comments about this notion of innovation versus regulation and where are we on that scale with the development of DeFi. This is something that the Internet Economy Foundation has actually been grappling with from the beginning too. So a little bit about the IEF and what we're about. We're an independent think tank. We're based in Berlin. It's important to know that we're actually not funded by any government. We're not a trade federation. We're funded by founders and funders, actually from the internet scene. And also important to know in the world of think tanks, we don't have any money from our beloved Silicon Valley companies, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, or any of our Chinese friends. It's really important for us to maintain that independence, but we do see ourselves as a link between the web industry and the policymakers. It's, as Sheila said, some are at 1 and some are at 10 in their understanding of where the web is. And it's really important, I think, to have organizations like ours trying to help the politicians that do want to understand. We're working from a European point of view, and if you could boil us down to one word, it would be competition. We really are trying to keep Web 2.0, 3.0, DeFi, whatever stage of web or tech you're working on, we want to keep it free and fair and competitive. So if you look at the Web 2.0 race, which I guess has been running for the last 15 years, this is the way most Europeans would see how that's been going. That's sorry for all the white males in the picture. It's not a very diverse drawing, but the point there is that Europe has been huffing and puffing. The solution is, of course, not to just over-regulate and hope that somehow that'll make champions. The Internet Economy Foundation really was born to try and help Europe compete on a fair playing field. A bit of some of our activities over the past 5 years. We do a lot of studies, we do a lot of background discussions, trying to translate the world of the internet to policymakers, and then actually help them decide where should they regulate, what should they regulate, and if so, how. And just to give you see some of the stuff we've done, disinformation was a big topic a couple of years ago. It's now feeding into the Digital Services Act at the EU level. We focus on 3 main areas. One is infrastructure, which for us started as things like 5G and broadband and cloud computing, but now, of course, crypto and blockchain for us are key, huge pieces of the coming digital infrastructure. And one study I would highlight here, one of our earliest ones, we looked at the platform economy. It was it's a subject that's really been a lot of the speakers today have touched on some of the principles that we were talking about when we looked at the platform economy. These charts are actually, this chart is actually 5 years old, but it could be from yesterday because the market share portions of most of the dominant players are still the same. And that's kind of one of the missions of the Internet Economy Foundation is where there is market dominance, we want to try and break it up or find a way to bring competition in there. And this is something, again, that discussion that was just in the previous panel about should we regulate, should we not, should we let innovation flourish? 20 years ago, the US government said, let's let innovation flourish. 20 years later, we have some market dominance in some spots. We actually created a chart for how to spot a gatekeeper, if you will, or how or when to regulate a gatekeeper. This was something that we think is right now being discussed in Brussels with the Digital Markets Act. And as you can see, just to give you some examples, I mean, Uber or Lyft, those are platforms, they're aggregators, they're multi-sided markets, but in competition terms, they're not hurting anybody in terms of being a gatekeeper or a marketplace that could dominate the others. So we tried to keep this sort of scale where you could judge, okay, is somebody mission critical? Is someone market dominant? Are they a gatekeeper? Are they a bottleneck? And ultimately for us, it boiled down to things like search engines, operating systems, app stores, pretty common examples that most people would agree on, where market dominance has led to abuse. I mean, you look at the way the advertising technology market is running right now, and I think we're all in agreement on that. So that's just some thoughts about the IEF. Why do we care about crypto and blockchain? Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, deep tech, as it is defined, is really something where Europe is placing a lot of its poker chips. And you could argue, this is a slide from a few years ago, the Slush State of European Tech survey, where they looked at different countries and what emerging deep tech elements were best poised for certain countries. And as you can see, crypto blockchain, I would actually disagree. I think, ironically, the German ecosystem, if you see, you know, Ocean, Fractal, the Polkadot ecosystem, Kilt, there's a lot of really great stuff going on in that marketplace. So we've got a study coming out, and so this is a bit of a preview of it. And in fact, there's a panel right after this on CBDCs who will do much better deep dive on the issue. But to set the table for that, we've teamed up with Lakestar, Chainlink, and Economy, and we want to really try and again have a study for someone like this gentleman here, who's from the European Central Bank, saying, hey, don't worry, we'll protect you all from that crazy DeFi world. We'll bring a digital euro out that'll sort of be safe and protect your privacy, but we promise it won't be too crazy innovative. We'll see where that goes. We want to accompany this process. We think there's a huge opportunity for all CBDCs, especially the European one. It has a lot of potentials. Interestingly enough, you could even correct some of the birth mistakes, if you will, of the way the euro was designed. But bottom right for us is, of course, the most important one, and the most important for the Chainlink ecosystem and all of the DeFi world is, if you can architect your digital currency properly, you can enable much more digital innovation to flourish. And for us, that's the key. That's what this is all about, is if you get it right, you can unite the best of all of these worlds, because as we heard from the great talk between Sergey and Jonathan earlier from Swift, this old infrastructure isn't going anywhere. I love Jonathan's phrase about the lucrative inefficiencies. Yes, of course, they'll go away, but a digital euro has the opportunity to enable a lot of great new innovation to sit on top of the existing ecosystems. So this pyramid, if you will, is for us what the key to our study will be, and I think it'll be the key to a lot of central bank digital currency discussions and debates in the coming years. What are the design choices that are going to need to be made? What are the architecture choices that will have to be made, and what will that lead to? And actually, in this pyramid, you actually sort of work your way up from the bottom to say, okay, how do we want to do this? Do we want to make it account-based or token-based? Think of, a credit card versus cash. One is a token, one is an account. And as you make these design choices, you can work your way up the pyramid and potentially enable whole new levels and ecosystems of innovation to sit atop it. So in our study, we're of course not making all of these choices right now for the ECB or others. We're trying to lay things out so that everyone can understand what's at stake, because those are really the key elements for how to make sure that an innovation economy can sit atop this system. So final slide, and the key one, if I was able to talk to Ms. Lagarde of the ECB, these are the recommendations that we, together with Chainlink and Lakestar and Economy, are putting out there for the ECB to have in mind while they're designing a digital euro and starting this process. Obviously, European financial sovereignty is a huge issue. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, in Europe, we're quite aware of our weakness. Visa and MasterCard are not European systems. Thankfully, Swift is like a DAO, wonderful, but a lot of the payment and transaction world and a lot of the existing banking systems and payment systems worldwide are not in European hands, and that makes a lot of people nervous. So we want, a digital euro to reinforce the euro's position. We obviously want it to be designed with a more secure future, but for us, the number 4 and number 5 are the key elements here as part of our recommendations. You really need to follow to have form, follow, function and build something for the innovation ecosystem, and especially tailor it to meet the needs of the startup, scale up and DeFi ecosystems. Because as you can see from today, what's going on here with SmartCon, there's an incredible future here for IoT, for smart contracts, for machine-to-machine transactions. And I think if we can get a digital euro that helps us harness all that, then the sky's really the limit, and SmartCon 2 will have double again in terms of the numbers of people here. So thanks again. Thanks back over to you, Andy. Looking forward to the CBDC panel coming up. And thanks again to the great Chainlink team for this opportunity. Next slide, final one, please. Contact us, stay in touch. We'll have not only this digital euro study coming out, but others on this subject. Please keep in touch and we'll make sure you get a copy. And thanks again to the Chainlink team.
Clark, thank you so much for joining us. If I can keep you for just 1 minute, I got a question for you. Have you noticed, 5 years ago, the talk of antitrust was, some fringe lobbyists and think tanks who are excited about it. But now it seems like it's entering into the public consciousness more, especially in the States, but then across Europe and around. Have you noticed that shift?
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, I like to think I was part of that shift. We were very lonely 5 years ago, when we put out a study and said monopoly or gatekeepers. So definitely that shift is there. But ironically, the shift didn't really happen until we saw a lot of the negative consequences of monopolies or market dominance. On the disinformation side, several elections happened and people started suddenly realizing, why do we have so much market power in the hands of a duopoly in global advertising? And so that shift is there. And I guess the message is, what sounds or seems like a fringe group or kind of crazy now can be the middle of the road in 5 years. I'm old enough to remember when there was competition in search 25 years ago. And when I see the DeFi space, when I see crypto blockchain, it sounded and seemed like a kind of a fringe thing a few years ago. It's now obviously right in the middle of things, as you can see. And I think that's what's exciting, is that if you develop this nose in technology that most of us have, this love for the new, things that seem a little crazy or wild can, within a matter of time, become absolutely a dominant force.
Thank you so much, Clark. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time, a curiosity of mine. And to the audience, I just want to tie some of the threads. If you take a listen back to some of the things Sheila Warren is talking about, to the Swift presentation as well, and to what Internet Foundation is also working on, there are themes coming. And so sometimes it takes a lot to get the flywheel of change moving, but we're absolutely seeing some of that. So Clark, thank you again for your time today and bringing us these fantastic ideas.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, guys.